you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
And we're live.
Welcome, everybody, to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. We have a very, very special episode tonight. It's your host, the Happy Hoodlum himself, Mr. Kemper Woodruff. We got the Meat Fortress in the flesh, Mr. Zachary Sampson, and my dear friend, soon to be your Clackamas County Commissioner, if we can get you to vote right and talk some sense into your head, Miss Dana Hindman-Allen.
Thank you so much, Kemper. I appreciate that intro. So I'll let you take it away. I don't know where you want me to start, or if you have another intro you want to do.
Yeah, I'll let people know right now. Dana, I grew up with her daughters. Like, her youngest daughter and I were in bathtubs together as babies, you know? So she is absolutely as family and rooted in my life as it gets, and a very impactful figure in the community as well. And so I wanted to have her on tonight because she's running for Clackamas County Commissioner again. And I want her to be able to have a platform where she can speak not just from behind a podium, but, and she always speaks from the heart. I just want to say that, but really have a more human and less formal way to express what she's out here to do and the changes she wants to make for our community and just how badass she is. So that's my intro for you, Dana.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. Well, first of all, to your audience, I really appreciate you tuning in and illuminate what the political landscape is, because I definitely am in the pulse of the political landscape in Oregon. And as Kemper said, yes, his mother and I are best friends, and I've known him for, 28 years? Yes,
Yep.
28 years. So of course I'm delighted to be on and bring something really valuable to the show. So I hope when the show is over that you are able to take away some things, get able to kind of get a window view into kind of what's going on in Oregon. And I did, as Kemper said, I did run in 2022. Basically in the height of one of the most harrowing times in our modern history. And all of you, not to bring back any trigger points and trauma, but the government in Oregon went really far. I mean, really far. I mean, to shutting down businesses, deciding who got to work, who didn't, mandating medicine. I mean, just all of the things that went on. And that was really when I first, I got involved, actually, what got me involved in politics. And first, I'll just say I'm a real estate agent, have been for years. So, I was going about my life as we all were. And then this whole, the pandemic happened, and just a lot of things were not right. And it triggered me. And I started with the Kate Brown recall is how I got involved, to recall Governor Brown. So one good thing she did, she brought a lot of good people together to stand up against I got started on that. And then I got into activism with Free Oregon, and basically trying to protect our constitutional rights to be able to make our decisions, even in the height of an emergency. Yes, we do things for community's sake. Go ahead, Kemper.
I was gonna say it cut out briefly. So you got to stand against Kate Brown and wound up shoulder to shoulder with a lot of cool people. Is that what you were saying?
Exactly. I was pretty much, in a nutshell, we tried to recall the governor because she just wouldn't let up. Like, when we all did what we needed to do to deal with the emergency, right, with the pandemic, and not to go back in time, but I want your audience to get kind of a chronological history about how my journey began.
Mm-hmm.
And so during that time, we all tried to recall the governor because she just wouldn't let up. Kids were out of school for 2 years. It just, businesses were dropping. Meanwhile, other parts of the country were shut down for 6 months and then they were open and people went about their lives. But we on the West Coast really took a hit by the government, I should say. So anyway, then I got involved in activism and then I thought, I'm going to take it a step further. Just all the things that are going on in Oregon, and I think most of your audience probably has an indication that it's very expensive to live in Oregon. A lot of policies that seem very counterintuitive keep coming down the pike. And it just,
Were you
in
saying?
general, go ahead.
Were you saying something about the taxes?
Oh yeah, the taxes in Oregon are outrageous. And it seems like bi-weekly, we keep getting a new proposition. And frankly, the people have had enough, truly. And this is nonpartisan issue. This is across the relief. They need relief. So anyway, so that was how I got involved in my first run, is I wanted to be able to make a difference and start restoring Oregon, one county at a time, to this like happy medium, this sort of civility. And when I saw our beautiful city just went, kind of to rack and ruin, really touched me because I'm a native Oregonian, as you know. And, our state was one of the most beautiful states in the Union. It really was. And, without litter and graffiti and everything, it just was so beautiful. And just to see it fall into disrepair and a lot of broken promises by the government, I thought, you know what? We need a new kind of government. And we need a collaborative government. I chose to run again because really, in a nutshell, I mean, I don't know if I could just put it in a nutshell. My vision for Clackamas County is really to protect the quality of life. And actually, corruption is run rampant in the government. And I want to really change that trajectory because the people can see through it. And I just don't think that in leadership is what we need. We need leaders who actually care. They're not just giving buzzwords and political talk, but they actually care about what's going on in the community. Feel free to jump in at any time, darling.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So you were saying the people can see through it, and they're really tired of being lied to. And I want to kind of piggyback on that a little bit and let you get into some behind the scenes stuff or lesser known things, because I, like many other people in Oregon, didn't know until we were affected by changes that were made, and a lot of them weren't voted in. They were put forward and really influencing, like, for instance, in Washington, they put forward that, like, state of emergency so they could ban firearms. And me being in the firearms industry, I didn't know when I got until I started working in the gun store what the heck a tap fee was. But I didn't know Governor Kate Brown had signed something in that we had voted down. But she put it into a kind of like relief bill and just lumped it in there, even though we voted it down, I believe, twice. And it's a tax that goes on to businesses, and it's only like 0.5%. So they think they can get away with it. It's like a 0.57% tax. But it directly affects businesses.
Tax? Are you talking about the corporate activities tax?
Yeah.
18%.
That was 18%?
During the pandemic when businesses were closed. Unbelievable. Yeah, there's certain, I can go into, I don't have everything right in front of me, but the cat tax is really huge. And it was done right when, and that's another thing, when we were shut, businesses were shut down, they slammed. Can you imagine what is
Hold
wrong
on.
with that picture?
It cut out. Did you say when businesses shut down? That's what we got the last of.
Oh yes, sorry about that. And I'm forgive me to the audience that we're having some little bit of delay. The cat tax during when businesses were shut down due to the pandemic restrictions that were not law, but administrative mandates are not law. That is when the corporate activities tax was instituted. Businesses were not making revenue. The cat tax was put on. It's just, so that's, I mean, to me, that was just so counterintuitive and so not business friendly. It's unbelievable. So go ahead to your point.
Yeah. So, to my point is that we're being influenced in ways that we aren't knowing until it hits us right in our pocketbook in the middle of, inflation and times when we really should, as a human race, be caring about our actual health and what really matters. And it's become very apparent that was very much organized and orchestrated as a test, just by the way that things were handled. And even people that were absolutely faithful to the institution that is the government, they wound up being so directly taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And we're not stupid. And so I applaud you in getting involved. I want to touch on another thing that's coming up because it will affect Oregonians heavily if it gets put into effect, and that is tolls. They want to put tolls in. So can you tell us a little bit about the tolls and what you plan to do and how you're kind of fighting against it?
Oh, absolutely. So I've been fighting against that for several years, testifying and writing and all of my campaigns. So because of the political, and just let you know, I am a delegate to the state level. So I'm deeply involved. So in our Clackamas County party, I'm a delegate. So I'm involved in, implementing and influencing policy at the state level, in our political party, which then funnels out into decision making. So in Clackamas County, we have stood against it hard because they were trying to toll the I-205, and it would have just, the cost to families going back and forth for work and everything would have been horrendous. So because of that political pressure, they have temporarily suspended it on I-205. But I tell you what, it is a political pause completely. And they are still doing studies on I-5, 217, other bridges, Tualatin bridges. So we will stand against it in Clackamas County and be absolutely vocal. And as a lobby, your representatives, you can lobby the governor and stand against it with political pressure and outreach and awareness. And to your point, this is the very important point, that if people do not want something, they need to get out and take action in their communities. They need to get involved, find the groups, find the resistance, and be a part of that resistance. Because it's if people are apathetic, it basically, government goes to those who show up. Is kind of my little note there. Government goes to those who show up. So we were really successful at leading the charge, our commissioners, our political, our Clackamas party, in stopping the tolls. But they are here, they are coming back. I tell you, they are coming back. So we can fight it at the county level, and it'll be a multi-county effort. So I know Washington County will be affected. So we're pretty tight with the Washington political group. And I know it's coming from, here's what I want to say. It's not always just one party or the other. Let's say the dominant party, let's just say it. The Democrats are the dominant party. They're driving a lot of the decisions, but there are people that go along with it in other parties. It's not, this is basically bad policy. Okay. And I don't need to pin the tail on it, but it is bad policy. People don't want it. And when the government keeps railing forward when people don't want it, that's the culture that we need to change. Is that we, the people, ultimately drive the decisions, not the other way around. So to that point, I want to share with your audience something else. In 2022, when I ran for Clackamas County Commissioner, and my partner now in a lawsuit, May Wong, she ran for Metro 2. Now, during the vote count on the primary election, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. She got up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. On the morning of Memorial Weekend, when people were pretty distracted, they were just getting into summer, finishing up their end of the year, things with their families. And Sunday morning, 4:30 a.m., she looked at her numbers on the website, the state website, and her votes were going down by the thousands in her race, a two-person race. And they went down over 6,300 votes. She took timestamp screenshots of her votes going down by the thousands. Now, this is not theory. This is not conspiracy. This is actual fact. So, and then during that time in the Clackamas race, suddenly 60% of the ballot barcodes were so they had to hand duplicate all the ballots.
Hold on. You said 60% were unreadable?
Yes, the barcodes. So they had to slow it down and hand duplicate the ballots, okay, to new ballots. So that was going on. The timestamp screenshots, it was delayed, the counts. It was very dramatic. So at the time, she and I ended up connecting by literally a godsend, because I'm like, I'm not feeling good about any of this. This whole, the barcode's unreadable. It was just a mess, kind of a cluster, you know what?
Yeah.
And so she and I connected, and she's like, yeah, I have the votes are going down by thousands. So we filed a formal complaint as candidates, and of course as citizens, but as candidates, we can, if there are issues or questions or defects that we see in an election, and this is a bit of an educational piece for your audience, that we have that right to basically file formal complaints, which we did to the state and the county. We asked for a full hand recount of the original not duplicate ballots because the whole thing didn't sit right. And we asked for a forensic investigation on why, an explanation on why the ballots or the votes went down by the thousands. Because the county uploads to the state and the state just shows the numbers. The county uploads, the state doesn't do anything on their website. They just show the final tallies. So anyway, they ran us around for 2 months, violated their own Oregon laws. They did not provide us with a cost estimate, which is part of their statutes. Basically gave us the shell game. I'm just going to say, in short, you know what the shell game is, the street shell game?
No. Oh, where you're moving?
Yeah, just the shell game, just basically ran us around to be perfectly clear under the color of law. And they didn't follow their own laws. And then told us they weren't going to do anything after 2 months. So we have all that evidence of those discussions. They said, nope, we're not going to do anything, and we can't explain why those votes went down. Well, that's not acceptable. That's not honest. It's not ethical. They said, if you don't like it, file a suit. And we did. We filed a federal case. Pro se, no attorneys. As a matter of fact, for your audience, right here, it went to the Supreme Court of the United States. Pro se, no attorneys. We're currently in federal court. Go ahead and fire away.
First of all, that's fantastic. These are the things that don't come up when I'm around the table because we're just chilling. We get to talking sometimes, and it's less political driven and just kind of us being hippies and family together. So I'm happy that we get to have this moment while it's documented. I want to say, first of all, anytime something like that happens in politics where they go, hold on, we need to hand do these. That to me sounds like the clearest and easiest way to redo a ballot in your favor. And then what happened to the old ones? I don't know. They were defective. We had to get rid of them. What the hell? You know that
they have both. They hand duplicated. They kept both, but it's just the whole point.
Yeah. And you said something before that where you were talking about the counties and the parties of the counties kind of getting together. And so from someone who I've always believed that people are for politics and politics aren't for people. In theory, they are, but in practice, it has not been that way. And so that's just my own little like hippie mind going, man, don't trust the man. That's Big Brother. So behind the scenes, how does it work? Because if you're saying that there's people in the Democratic Party that vote less liberal and, you know, more what would be considered conservative or Republican, right? Then there's got to be the inverse of that, where there's people in the Democratic or in the Republican Party voting democratically. To
So
say
wait,
kind of.
Let me follow that. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying, what I think you're speaking to is, I was saying that the dominant party right now, the party in the majority right now, is the Democrat Party, and they have been for about 10 years or more.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we haven't had a Republican governor in 40 years.
Yeah, well,
Let
what
that
I'm
sink in.
saying, I
So
know
how
that's
are
crazy.
you?
That's bananas. 40 years without a Republican. But what
So
I'm
where were you
saying is, when I hear about parties commingling, right? Like
Oh,
political
the
parties.
The uniparty, yes.
Yes. Like it seems to me that my antennas go up and I start getting curious about what is really going on behind closed doors. You know? I just smell corruption there, or the ability for there to be corruption, because there's not a lot of monitoring.
This is the way I look at it. So this is a nonpartisan position. I'm there to serve everybody in the county.
Mm-hmm.
I am a registered Republican, and I am a delegate in the Republican Party. But it is nonpartisan. For me, this is where I'm at personally, and I can only speak to myself. I want ethical people in government. I want honest, ethical people that are not bent on falling for corruption, that are doing things straightforward. And show me people that are doing that actually truly are walking the walk. Then to me, whatever party they are is immaterial. I want to see people that are doing the work. Obviously, I'd love to see Republicans in that are straightforward, but people in human nature, people get swayed. They get romanced by some promise of something. And I think that we just need people with a lot of fortitude that can withstand political pressure, that can stay kind of their true north in the midst of such a volatile landscape as politics can be. So I'd say, to your point, circling back to what you said, that there are people that vote in all kinds of ways and that don't make sense, and they could be voting in, like, the Republican Party, they could be voting for things that there are people in the Republican Party that vote ways that people in the Republican Party don't appreciate. Okay, just like same goes for the Democrat Party. They have their own internal struggles, right? You have people that maybe have more of a core value, that want to hold to some core value, and then we have people that are extreme in that party, and so there are factions within factions of people that, show me the line that we can move forward and have good quality of life. Show me that path. That's the path that I want.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I think you said that beautifully, I just want to say. One of the things that I want to shed a little bit of light on is who I know you to be from not only growing up, you're in so many of my childhood memories and the values that you helped, instill in me and in your children, and accepted the fact that we're all characters, because we are definitely lunatic children, but we're fantastic if we're voting. And I remember listening to music, like old rock and roll music, going out and you guys putting me on your horses and stuff and going through the woods with you and my mom, and just some of the incredible things that we've experienced of just down home living.
Mm-hmm.
And never would I have guessed back then that you would be running for office, because it was a different time and this really was a different state and place.
It was.
And so I remember very serene, kind of different, atmosphere. And I appreciate that you haven't lost that free spirit and you found a way to channel that into a institution that can act as a vehicle for other people to be able to express themselves. Because one thing about you as a mother is you don't take shit.
No.
I've never heard you like lie at all. You've always shot it absolutely straight in your advice to, me, my brother, your own children, anyone that I've ever, seen you encounter. And you've never, tucked tail. You were willing to have, discussions. For anyone that doesn't know Reno is my stepdad. He is a proud Canadian, but now an American citizen. And if you've ever tried to talk politics, it gets loud. And all 6'5" of him, can be quite an opposing force to some people. And no matter what the setting, I've never seen Dana at all be swayed one way or the other. It was, we're gonna sort this out in the most logical way, and I'll let you convey anything you want, and you can convey it loudly. And I say this not because my stepdad's a bad guy or anything like that. I love him to death. But a lot of people are fed up. And the way that they're going to express themselves and are expressing themselves is coming from this place of frustration with the system, and that people aren't living correctly because the system itself is also broken. And so they're like, what can I trust? I want to trust. I want an easier life. I want to know that I'm heading in the right direction, and that by the time I get to where I'm going from these efforts, the destination's still going to be there, but it seems to be an ever-moving target and a really difficult landscape to navigate, especially wanting to be involved in politics, but at an arm's length, as most citizens are. So I just wanted to throw that in there for people that are watching this, because truly you've been a huge influence in my life for a moral compass. And, I remember going to your daughter's wedding when I was at Holly's wedding, Miss Tuttles. It really reminded me, because I can say myself, I got lost in a lot of stupid hood shit, if I can just say it straight up,
Sure.
and antics of being young. And a lot of that was because I didn't trust the system. I didn't trust the government. I didn't trust what the school system was teaching me. And I wasn't going to be lab ratted. So I would rather roll the dice and find out, living radically and risking it all. And I'm not alone in that. And I think that's where most people are. And life has high stakes. It is beautiful and it is fragile. And being able to be there really reminded me of my roots. And I was so happy because I was like, oh yeah, this is what life is supposed to be like. This is when you do it right. And, you know, I have to just tip my hat to your influence and um, your ability to guide people. You're kind of a mother to all. And I think that's why, if anyone should vote, it's that you've handled ups and downs, highs and lows, crazy and sane, and maintained an even keel. And that's what we need in our leadership.
And very well spoken. And I truly, truly appreciate your accolades, public accolades. Thank you so much. And you know, that is the thing. Truly, my heart is, I mean, I have a long history. Some people, just some interesting tidbits about my family. Long history in Portland. I mean, we're talking mid 1800s. My great great grandfather served in the legislature in 1921. Nan Wood Honeyman, she was the first woman to ever win a congressional seat in Oregon, and she married into the Honeyman family, which is my grandfather's side, my dad and my
Wow.
grandfather. Okay, so we have a lot of longstanding history, and I've seen a very beautiful aesthetic state where people really actually work together and wanted to work towards the common good. I mean, we pioneered the bottle bill and recycling and you know, environmental pinnacle. And there's this absolute breakdown that I've witnessed. And it's like, I know that the heart in Portland and in Clackamas and in Washington County and all over the state, I know the heart for better is there, and I know it's still alive in Portland. I mean, I go down to Portland, and my family, I mean, it's long-standing roots there, and I go there and I can still see the heartbeat of people, like knowing what old Portland felt like, just that beautiful eclectic vibe, the music scene, the restaurant scene, all that was so wonderful, and people actually mixed very well regardless of political party. And I've just seen this faction take over in Oregon that is just unhealthy and not sustainable. So to your point, I do want to steady the ship, and Clackamas is leading the way in so many ways. We are saying no. We want what's good for the people. We want what's good. We want to, have things be heated. We don't want to be suppressed with so much. We don't need to have all these massive taxes. I mean, the government is loaded in Oregon, and it's just this insatiable, I call it the insatiable quest for taxation. We just need to they need to back off. People need relief right now. We need to get more methodical with our budgets. I mean, just some really brass tacks. And to your point, if you would have told me 20 years ago, I would have run 2 campaigns and done a federal lawsuit pro se with no attorneys and against the state of Oregon and the Clackamas County Elections Office, the office I'm running to serve in, I would have thought you lost your mind. So you never know where you're called to go. But there are times in people's lives, and people in your audience, there are times in your life when you just can't walk by. You can't look and go, oh yeah, wow, that's really bad. Someone else will deal with it. There are times when you have to plant your stake in the ground and go, no, if I don't do it, then who? And that's how I arrived at this point. And just a tidbit about this case, it is all about civil rights and redressing your grievances, because we want our grievances redressed. It's been 2 years. So we took it in federal court. They finally said we have redressability and that we have Article 3 standing. And then when the Ellen Rosenbaum jumped on basically the attorney general, they dismissed it. And so then we took it to a writ of certiorari, and May Wong and I love her. My God, she's brilliant. We took it to the Supreme Court, and it did not get rejected. And they sent us a letter, Justice Kavanaugh, to go back to the appellate court. And we're still sitting in the appellate court, and the government, I got to tell you, this really encapsulates for your audience. The government's responses, the attorneys said mere fraud, This is in black and white, and they can look at it on my website, which I will let them know. Mere fraud does not invalidate an election, quote unquote, from the government attorneys. Here's the other quote. Garden variety, first of all, I didn't know fraud had garden variety, but garden variety election irregularities do not violate the due process clause, even if it changes the outcome of an election. I got a problem with that. And I'm going to take it a step further for the people. This is for all of the people in Oregon. Is that if the default, this is straight from the case that one of my excerpts. If the default mechanism of the government, if something's wrong, and it could be anything, it's not just elections, it could be benefits, it could be anything the government screws up on, and you question them and press it, right? If the default response of the government is to go to court, that just barred about 90% of people from ever being able to exercise their Ninth Amendment and redress their grievances, because people don't have the financial means, the time, the expertise, the wherewithal. That's where we're at right now. Is the government, when you press up against them, you're going to get stonewalled. We're in court and we're still being stonewalled. So I think that, and I want to say, stand up for your rights. Okay? That's the bottom line. You have to stand up for your rights. So I'm trying to lay some tracks here. We have to stand up for our rights, you know? Call it a Bob Marley song, whatever you want to do. Get up, stand up for what's right. Quote unquote, Bob Marley.
100%. And, that couldn't have been a more welcome quote for any of the youth, because we all know Bob Marley had that shit right. And, also, Zach, if you have any questions, feel free to interject whenever. One of the things, Zach is the greatest listener in the world.
Zach, fire away, please. We want to be interactive here. That's what I want. A collaborative government. Imagine that.
Well, I mean, a lot of I tend to get semi-frustrated when talking about politics because of the seemingly increased amount of corruption that that you guys have been talking about. And one of the things, I only seen this on an Instagram reel, but it made a lot of sense to me in terms of how you could, it could be addressed, but it would be a really big step, and it's probably an unlikely one, but it would be something along the lines of an amendment or an addition to the Constitution, which would be something like adding in a wage cap for government officials from all of their potential income streams. So it would be something along the lines of the median income of their state, where they couldn't also bring in income from stocks or of any other type of income other than the median wage of their state or income of their state. And I've always thought that was one of the things that if it was instituted, there'd be a lot of things that would change almost instantly, because, well, one, you would probably avoid I forget her name, but the specific politician in DC that has a better stock trading record than Warren Buffett.
Oh, Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah, Pelosi.
Oh, you mean insider trading that's already illegal?
Exactly. And so it would
Yes.
ideally eliminate things like that. But then at the same time, it would be
how about consequences for it, Zach? I think that
too
would eliminate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Consequences, actual consequences, would also eliminate it. But another thing that I look at is something that kind of goes on in California, and I'm assuming it probably happens in Oregon too, with the homeless situation, where people are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to solve that problem, But if they were to solve that problem, they no longer get hundreds of $1,000s a year. So their incentive to solve that issue isn't really there. And so
Are you
it's
talking
just,
about the homeless industrial complex?
that's a great term for it. But yes, that. So that would be one thing that I like.
No, and that's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
really good point. And just to touch on that with you, I have a bachelor's in human development, and I have a compassionate heart, and I don't think it's compassionate for people to be on the streets. But there's also a situation where we know that people make choices in their lives, and every choice that every person makes at any given moment in their life leads them to the next juncture. But I think there are people that get into a hopeless state, and they get into, they're severely addicted to some pretty devastating drugs, the fentanyl and all those things that are wreaking havoc. But I think we need accountability, and I'm not opposed to helping people get into recovery, giving people an avenue. But I think that we need to have some serious accountability for the millions of dollars that goes out, with parameters, with follow through, follow up. Once the money goes out, we need to have criteria and basically a whole accountability sheet on, if these things, metrics are not met, then the money dries up. Like, there has to be some pretty strict parameters with it. To your point with Portland, a lot of money's gone out, and there's not a lot of accountability, and the problem is growing. So what's wrong with this picture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add to that is Dana's been a realtor for, I believe, 10 plus years now.
12.
12? Yeah. So who knows better than the state of housing than realtors? Shout out one time for realtors.
Mhm.
But when she says follow up and follow through, that's our tenants, baby. That's how you take care of people and how you serve. Is you
Mhm.
make sure that what you're doing is effective for what is needed,
Mhm.
and the outcome that people want. So
I'm
I
a
just
key
wanted to throw that in.
negotiator. I'm a key negotiator and key collaborator. I mean, I want to try to seek some common ground. So I'm not out to demonize any nonprofits, but I'm out to radically take a look at their models and take a look at the outcomes.
Yeah.
Can
One question I have is, can you describe a little bit of the toll that it's taken and some of the prices you've had to pay in order to run as a candidate, both, in your interpersonal life, like your family life, as well as financially and career wise? Because it takes time. You got to be everywhere all the time, and that's a lot.
Very good question. Yes, it's a huge sacrifice, and I have to do a quick shout out to my husband, who is absolutely integral to mine being able to serve. He is an absolute support. So it's really key to have very good, strong people around you that help keep you focused. I mean, I'm a self-starter, but I tell you, having people that, okay, we got to when you're just a little tired, say, no, no, let's go. We help balance each other, but it takes a lot of time management. I'm very streamlined with my efforts and very intentional, but I do make sure I take care of myself. I do yoga 5 days a week. I really take care of myself health wise. I eat very well. I'm very balanced, and I know when I need to refresh myself. It's very important when you're giving, because you're giving a lot. And with my business, I'm working full time with my business and doing very well, and I do very well in real estate. I'm very and I think that's what it takes to be able to meet all those obligations. As far as like my personal, yes, I mean, there's times where I don't take a vacation or I don't do something because I have obligations. So it's a sacrifice, and the time I put into serving, that's volunteer. I'm on the Clackamas County Parks Board, and I have been since 2021. And that takes dedication, and also serving at the state level, going all to the central committee meetings that rotate around the state. That in and of itself is a lot. So just knowing when I need to take a moment. But yes, it's a huge commitment for family life.
Um,
100%.
in terms of the park stuff, tell me a little bit about that because I don't know enough about what that organization is doing in detail.
So I'm on the Clackamas County Parks Board, and so we've got the Parks Department in the county. So the board advises from a citizen perspective on, how, certain aspects of the park. They present their budgets that they get from the county. We go through, kind of the maintenance requests, the suggestions, the thoughts, basically shaping all aspects of the park and advising the Parks Department when they put forth proposals. It's essentially anyone can, be on an advisory board, and I honestly suggest that people can apply for that. Like people in Multnomah County, I'm not sure where your audience is mainly from, probably a variety of counties, I would imagine, but getting on an advisory board that you can be an integral part of advising the department on, aspects of, it could be like a budget committee advisory, parks board advisory, human and health services advisory. You get to be part of the policy making and policy suggestion.
How many young people do you see at these meetings?
Well, as far as like the public, like our parks board, we've got, oh God, how many people? Oh, we have a group of people. How many currently are there? So myself, let's see, probably about 7 or 8 people on our parks advisory board. And then we're there, and it's just like our core group with the Parks Department. And then I would suggest to people that they go to their Board of Commissioners meeting because commissioners are the closest to the people, just like your city council and your mayoral meetings. I think if people really have a problem with things, they need to show up to the meetings and share their perspective.
100%. One thing I will say is it's hard to navigate these state sites. And I think one thing, the budget, if that's what people in the government really wanted, if they really wanted to hear people, put some of that fucking money into a website, dude. Pardon my language, but come on. Everyone's tried to navigate those things. I feel like I'm 87 years old. I can't find anything on a state site, and it's that way by design. There's no way that you have that much power and influence and money and you do not have a better site than someone who spends $30 a month on Squarespace.
Yeah, no, I understand. But I want to say to you, the young people, we need you. We need your voice. Yeah, we need the youth. And I think that it can be intimidating, but it's not. If you don't like something, suit up, show up, get down and testify. You can do it online. I suggest going down like to Multnomah County, the Board of Commissioners meeting. Go down and testify if you don't like something. I mean, that is what's going to do the trick. It's what's happened in all around the country, but I'm going to speak to Oregon, is that the government has gotten in the habit of, hey, get in the back seat and you see that divider is down. Yeah, there's a crack. You can say something, but I can barely hear you. We have to change the culture of unconstitutionality in the government. And we are the drivers of the decision making. So I'm encouraging young people and all people to show up to the meetings. I mean, essentially what I hope to do is there's a small group of people when you look at all the people that, are in government positions. I'm not talking the administrators. I'm talking the actual elected officials in Oregon. You can probably fit them into a conference room, like a big, maybe a convention room. Here.
It cut off at maybe a convention size
so
room.
maybe you could fit probably in a convention room the amount of people, elected officials that are run aspects of the state. Okay, from the commissioners, the mayors, the city councilors, right? The commissioners, the governor. It's a small group of people. So my presence in running for commissioner and hopefully getting elected, because the ballots will drop on May 1st. and you have to vote by May 21st. I could actually win in the primary with 50 plus 1 votes. There's 3 competitors, two other ones. So my hope is to inspire that group of people, doesn't matter what political affiliation, to do better, to be better, to do better for the people, to start understanding that we need to have a collaboration, that we don't have dictators. Like, we have a collaborative government. That's the form of government. We, the people, are the government. And do a refresher course for the government. But that's really what's supposed to be happening, and it's gotten lost. They've gotten a little too big. Would you concur?
Yeah. And I mean, Zach, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I think what's really missing out of the government is a modern approach. You know, I think if you want to reach the youth and you want them to come out, you don't need to expect them to come in person. You need to become the way that they can reach you and do it easily. So, like, and it might be something as simple as you see this problem and you post on Instagram, hey, I see this going on. I think there's 2 ways that I've come up with that would be a good idea, right? Vote on which one you think is better and have your own mini poll right there. And then DM me. Yeah, DM me if you have a better idea, right? And now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, you just took this thing into modern time. You just made yourself accessible. I don't have to go down to the meeting. I might not have your time management skills realistically. And so what can I do? Well, now I don't have to navigate that site. I can just have a direct voice through you that I can interact with. And no one's doing it. It blows my mind. It's like people don't want to see just a poster or you know, it's like every realtor that posts something like their stats for the month. People don't give a shit. They just want to know like how it really affects them. They don't take the time to read anything. They want something a little more engaging.
Very good point. I like that. Zach, you were gonna chime on that. Go ahead.
Well, like on top of that, if we think about like the course of just modern times and how things constantly are updating, we have in the grand scheme of things, social media is extremely new, right? And for the most part, people are still kind of learning how to communicate with it and use it. And but it's constantly being updated. Every year we get new updates on not just our phones, but on softwares and things like that, and it's constantly being fixed. But what we don't see is our government ever getting an update. Like we oftentimes don't see things like genuinely changing, and for the most part, things haven't changed in what, like 200 years, 300 years that the government's or that the country's been a thing. And so for me, it's like essentially what Kemper's saying is things need to change if we want to get younger people more interested, because I can tell you from just experience, because of the lack of accessibility, I guess, I don't have a whole lot of interest in getting into politics. I've gotten into it a little bit more over the last few years just because it's affected things that I'm a little bit more interested in.
Quality of life.
Exactly. And so it's gotten me into that a little bit more, but I've still tried to keep it a little bit away from me because I tend, like I said, I tend to get a little frustrated with it. And in terms of like updating, going along the lines of what Kemper was saying, is just getting it to be a bit more accessible for younger people.
Well, you can testify online. So you guys are deep into tech. You can testify online. So you can do a written testimony. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to do a video testimony, but you can do video testimony like on Clackamas County Commissioners. You can call in as a voice, and talk. You can do that probably in Multnomah County as well. So I definitely see your point because, well, let's face it, we're all scrambling around to make a living. Cost of living is exorbitant. And you don't have that extra hour in you or hour and a half to go run down to the county or, go to the meetings. So do it online. The young people can do it online, get involved that way. I think that's a very, very good point. What is your audience? Does your audience have questions for me? They must be brimming with something.
Well, we have a very small audience at this point, although it's branching out and getting a bunch of views on different platforms, like since we've been cutting up reels and stuff. But it's a pretty small platform
That's
of people
okay.
that we know of. Yeah.
Fire
Um,
away. Everybody's important. Let's hear what they have to say. Does
well,
anybody have a question?
I don't know if we got anybody on right now. That
Well,
would be
Oh,
a Zachary
really?
question.
to break the news to you, I say we're live, but we pre-record them and then go live.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I do kind of like it's a little bit tricky, but I do have another question that's a little bit more. I guess that
Sure.
we could get to like more about like your skill set,
Sure.
in terms of like what you kind of bring to the table for the county and politics in general. But I was curious about in terms of issues that are on your radar. What do your skill set like? What do you feel your skill sets are most applicable towards in terms of like what your main focus is? I guess.
So my main focus is essentially I do want to be a part of stopping the tolling, continuing to be a voice against the tolling, because if we get tolling around the state, that's going to change things dramatically. It's going to be I mean, we have a small geographical area. I mean, when you look at like our highways, 205, I-5, all of it is so intertwined and people work across those county lines pretty frequently. It's going to really be a huge damper. So I want to stop the tolls. I mean, come on, it's the Wild West. We do not want tolling on our roads. We can find other methods of income stream, like look at your budget and figure it out, besides always asking for more. So that's something top on my list. The homeless issue, we have reduced homeless, like essentially Clackamas County has by 65%. That's legit numbers. The commissioners have, made some strides. So really be a voice on solutions. Like I said, I have a bachelor's in human development, so I can be very an asset on the board with addiction, mental health, and all those types of core causes and root causes of homelessness. Because people don't just get homeless because of one thing. There's a cumulative effect. Some people fall on hard times and have no family help. I mean, there are those people that have those situations. So really be strategic in that aspect. Also, fiscal accountability. I mean, I want to see some real budget management and be able to maintain where we're at and not add more taxes. I think the last thing people want is more taxes. So really try to keep the quality of life and affordability. Kind of deal with some of the affordable homes. Look, the bottom line is it's a free market. If you want to sell your house for 600,000 because it's worth on the open market 600,000, and people say, well, we're going to fix the affordable homes, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Your house is worth 600. You can sell it for 400 if you want. So we're still dealing with the free market here, that people ebb and flow depending on the time. So if any politician's saying I'm going to fix the housing situation, it's like, wait a minute. Okay, it's a free market, and the reason it's constrained is because of Measure 100 that was years ago. Is we have very strict land use laws. So with my real estate background, and I also have a finance background, I was a mortgage lender for 4.5 years prior to being a realtor. I also want to look at how we can. We have an urban growth boundary that's pretty strict, but here's the kicker. We have a lot of diverse perspectives on that. There's a lot of people that don't want the urban growth boundary expanded, and especially areas in Stafford. They are vehemently opposed to it. They like their rolling hills. They like what they bought into in their very beautiful houses, their old farms, and they don't want housing development. So we really need to have some pretty deep conversations with a lot of people in the community about what people envision when it looks like, when it comes to releasing more lands, because it's really a lands issue. Because of course, when you have less land, you're constricted, your price goes up. So I think I can be a big asset on figuring out some strategic ways to create more housing. We have a systems development charges. It's 80,000 to 100,000 before builders break ground. So we can do some segments of affordable housing. That is for real. We can do that, with working with developers and figuring that out on areas where we can maybe lessen the systems development charges and in the agreement that they maybe deliver it more to the certain sectors of the housing, like a percentage of the houses have to be sold for a certain amount. It gets tricky. Because the free market, when the government gets involved in the free market, it doesn't always bode well, but I think we can be strategic with some creating some affordable housing and working out some situations. But I think it just comes down to our land use laws are extremely strict. And so we're kind of tied up in a very tight urban growth boundary. So I think I can be an asset on those discussions. Also, just decorum and principle and working on, like I said, quality of life, not policies that work against small businesses. A lot of small businesses are real upset. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, in terms of the budgeting, right? That'd be a lot of budgets for you to review. And it's like, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you think this is a good idea or not, but like, where would you outsource some of these aspects so that way you could actually process the diverse amount of things you're trying to get after in the small amount of time before you have to face election again?
I mean, it's a 4-year term. So, I mean, you have to, you go through methodically, you work with your commissioners and you go through the budget and you discuss it. And I'd like to see a lot more line items per department, to see where actually everything's being spent. That would be ideal. Instead of just bulk departmental, I'd like to see more of a breakdown. That would be helpful. And basically we go through it. And we look at it, review it, and so there's no outsourcing to it.
So you just blew my mind with something, because see, this is the stuff that we don't know. So they're just saying like, all right, bulk for the homeless problem or whatever, right? And are they not actually giving like X amount of dollars went to this nonprofit or whatever, so that way you can actually call them up and say, look, give me those statistics of what changed?
Oh, you can. Yeah, you can know. Yes, you can know. And that's what I think that needs to be implemented in government, that these nonprofits have like more of a statistics or analysis. And I think the public-private partnerships can be very beneficial. Like there's a place called Bybee Lakes that has a huge success rate. I think we were going to buy a hotel that actually was stopped, the Quality Inn Hotel. We fought against it in Clackamas County because first of all, it was going to be purchased for over $15 million. From a comparative market analysis standpoint, I think it was overblown, the price. And it was called Project Turnkey, which in and of itself is not a bad program. I mean, it's a good program, but the cost to manage this hotel and own it over the long run was going to be exorbitant. And also, it was going to be placed right in the middle of a thriving, stable, small business district. Not good. I think we need to have strategic placement of these things. And frankly, I don't think we need to buy a hotel. I think we can look at working with existing properties and do a private public partnership, and be able to have more of a read on the services. So the management for those things were going to be just astronomical. So these are ways you can save money within the government so that you're not always saying, oh, we need more, more, more. We need to be a little more conservative in our financial outlook and decision making. And that is not happening in Oregon right now. In Clackamas, we're very fiscally conservative county. I'm going to give kudos where kudos are due. We are running a very fiscally conservative county, which is great. And that's why we have a lower property tax. But it's not, I mean, still not, it's not, you see what I mean? Oh, hold on. My camera just went off. There we go.
That's
So
okay.
go ahead.
I was gonna ask, do you have any ties or feelings about, law enforcement and things like that, or do you stay out of that?
Oh, no. A good vast majority of the budget is public safety. And that is huge. Actually, we are one of the safer counties. And so law enforcement funding is essential. We are actually, and thank you for bringing that up, public safety is very prime on my list, because businesses can't operate if there's no public safety. People can't feel safe. They're always getting broken into. We don't want that in Clackamas County. And there is crime on the outskirts. And actually, there are people, I was just speaking to some people up the mountain, actually, and the businesses are suffering some break-ins. So public safety is a huge, huge part of our budget. And matter of fact, it's the majority of the budget in Clackamas County. So, and criminals do get prosecuted in Clackamas County. That's why they rather go to Multnomah County, where their DA is kind of forgot his job. Sorry, Mike Schmidt, but you haven't been prosecuting the criminals. So that's why Vasquez, what's his name? Nathan, I think it's Nathan Vasquez. He's running for district attorney, and I think he's in his DA's office. He's running against him. I think he'll be good.
Nice. Well, Zach, do you have any other talking points before we close this out? And I want to say thank you so much again, Dana, for being so gracious with your time.
Sure, I appreciate it. It's very nice having a leisurely conversation and really getting down to the heart of things. I know we covered a lot of subjects, so hopefully your audience will be able to, there's a lot going on there.
We'll spoon feed it to them in clips.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed. It was really nice discussing things with you.
Yeah, I guess
Likewise.
the one thing I want to ask before we get out of here, and Zach, again, if you have anything on your mind before, feel free to throw it out. But Dana, I'm curious, what do you think the people should know about you? Just like on a personal note, if you were really to give kind of like a testimony for yourself, outside of the commission, just we're taking it and stripping all the roles away, and you just have Dana, what would you say the people should know about you at your core of your personality, that they might not have gotten from this?
I absolutely love music. I love horses. I love to ride in the mountains. I'm an environmentalist at heart. And I want to see our clean air, water, and all of our surroundings. I love beauty, beautiful things, and I want to see our city cleaned up. I want to see our thriving. I want people to see people happy again. I'd like to see joy put back in the landscape of Oregon. I love to exercise. I love to eat well, and I really I think with a lot of persistence, we can inspire people. Individuals have a lot more power than they realize. And I think if we all put our intention and our action in the right place, that we can have a very vast rippling effect. And, if people would like to learn about me, they can go to my website. I will say it, Dana for Oregon, Dana fororegon.com. It's FOR. And then you can see a lot of my policies and my perspectives. I truly want to make Oregon a better place to live, and I want to restore. I just want to live in peace and enjoy prosperity, and I want that for my fellow person.
I don't think we can close this episode out any better than that. Dana, thank you.
Thank
You
you.
are incredible. We love you. And I
Thank
really
you.
hope to see you. Everybody
Love
come
you
out
too.
and vote. Like, do your thing, show up, use your voice. That's what she's encouraging you to do. And, you know, she's reachable. So if you need to DM her or hit her up on Facebook, message, whatever you got to do to get your
Bring it on.
questions answered, do it. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, you guys. Have a good one, and we'll do it again sometime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.